Hey everyone, welcome back here to Let's Be Real. I'm Trent May here at May Financial. Your host over there is Missy from BMF Fitness. How's it going, Missy?
It is going wonderful.
Awesome. And we have our first ever guest, Dr. Daniel Edwards in the bottom right there. How's it going, bud?
Great. It's good morning.
Good morning. All right, Missy, I'm going to let you take the reins here. Tell us why you have a very special guest here today.
Okay, so yes, we have Dr. Daniel Edwards with us, one of our household's favorite people from Dynamic Health and Performance on 3rd Street. I actually got to be introduced to Daniel when my 15-year-old had a track injury. And I was very impressed with how he handled things and the way that he didn't just help Camden through the process, but gave him exercises and stretches and warm ups to do to help prevent further injury. And I was so impressed that myself, being as accident and injury prone as I am, became, I think, one of his number one coming customers. But he's just been a true asset to our family, to our members. He gets rave reviews. I just had one this morning from one of our members. She's 75 years old and just can't stop talking about how much he's helped her. So I really want to bring him on and to help us talk today about how important it is to warm up, stretch, and get your body ready for any type of exercise at any level.
Awesome.
Well, thank you. Do you want me to go ahead and start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So one of the big things that I think is important as far as like warming up is when you take someone who's, say, for example, been sitting all day at their desk, and if they're working like a typical 9 to 5, it's going to be much more important for them to warm up, especially before doing something like a leg exercise, because they've been sitting all day. They haven't really been using like their glutes, say, for example, and you really want to make sure that you're doing some sort of targeted exercise to, for lack of a better word or phrase, kind of activate those muscles to then have them warmed up, and then you're kind of getting ready into that motion, kind of feeling your glutes, so to speak, or if it's the hamstrings or your back, whatever it might be. So it's very important to do that because two things. Number one, you need to get those muscles warmed up, obviously pump blood to them. And then number two, as you're, say, for example, in a seated posture and say your back's like flexed or rounded off to the side, then the ligaments are essentially going to start creeping. So essentially they're getting more lax, or they have a little bit too much stretch in them than what would be normal from, say, for example, moving throughout the day.
Oh, I never
So
knew
it's
that.
very important to then, exactly. It's not very commonly known, but that's a big reason why, like, there's a lot of injuries, say, for example, getting out of your car and picking up like a heavy suitcase when you're driving 2 hours to the airport, for example. So that's a big reason to then warm those muscles back up and make sure the muscles are functioning as optimally as what they can, to then give yourself the least chance to have like an injury or anything throughout your workout.
Awesome. So, Daniel, what if you're somebody who the only time of day they have to work out is first thing in the morning, but when they get out of bed, their legs feel tight or they're not real steady with their core, like maybe their back feels a little unstable? What would you recommend for them? Like if they just said, I can't wait till my body's been moving, I have to get up, get to the gym, and get going.
It's fine, I guess. Then I would definitely make sure like you're getting to the gym at least like 10 minutes early, and then start moving, whether that's getting on a bike, a rower, walking, just doing like simple things like air squats, potentially like foam rolling, something like that, something to get your body loosened up. And then I always recommend doing some sort of core exercise, because the big thing as core exercise as a warm up, because the big thing that a lot of people will do is go into like excessive rounding of their back, say, for example, with squatting. And basically what you want to have or generate is what's called intra-abdominal pressure. So as you breathe in, the diaphragm is going to contract, push down, and that pressure is going to then hit against your pelvic floor and then force your abdominal contents outwards. So two things. Number one, then you're activating all 360 degrees of your core, but then that pressure is also going to push back into your spine and stiffen your spine. And the more pressure or stiffness you're able to generate in your spine, then the more stable it's going to be for any sort of movements, whether it's pushing, pulling, obviously you can generate a lot more pressure if you're pushing against something that's stiff or pulling towards something that's stiff versus just being more so lax, I guess you could say.
And what about somebody like Trent who is at his office a lot and doesn't get to move? What are some things maybe he can do throughout the day to kind of help prevent that long lasting effect of sitting for, long hours at a time? Like maybe some stretches or ideas he can do at work.
So big thing in that scenario that I would say is taking like some sort of short break while you are at your desk. So like every 45 minutes to an hour or so, going and filling up your water bottle, something like that. Maybe whenever you go to do that, popping down and doing, 10, 15 squats. Nothing crazy, but just something to like keep the body going. And I think the more that people start to do that, if you start implementing that, you're going to have more energy throughout the day, be able to think clear, things like that as well. One thing that I like for someone that's sitting for extended periods of time would be to throw like a band of some sorts, just like the 9-inch like loop bands around your knees, and then just kind of sit in an upright posture and then just kind of spread your knees, or almost like a seated clam exercise. And you can do like repeated clams there, or just like hold that band at tension. And again, it's not something that you have to do for extended periods of time, or like make it some sort of huge workout to where you're breaking a sweat while you're in a suit and tie or something like that. It can be very simple, but just something to keep you moving a little bit and keep the muscles going. And because we're humans, we're not exactly designed to be sitting for a whole 9 to 5. We need to be moving around, pumping blood to our muscles, all that good stuff, pumping oxygen to the muscles. Yeah, exactly. Then you get tired and then kind of hit that afternoon crash as well if you're having a high carb meal at lunch.
Rotary. Hey, Trent, question for you. So are you going to videotape now yourself on your breaks? I want to see you doing your squats and your band work.
I actually have started recently taking a walk around the block like every couple hours, and it's amazing how much that helps. Like you said, not only how I feel, but the mind. It's amazing just to get away from the desk. And every hour to 2 hours, I'll go take. I have like one of those like Fitbit things. It's about like 750 steps. So I'll just do like a little loop around the block, and that makes all the difference.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. I think that's where a lot of people kind of feel like they get discouraged, or like they don't know where to start. It doesn't have to be anything insane. You could start with doing 20 squats every day while you're at work. And if you just kind of build from there a little bit, it doesn't take too much time. I mean, you're talking about a minute possibly. So start somewhere small, give yourself like little achievable goals to where you're, say, for example, like you said, walking every 2 hours, and then just kind of build from there.
And let people know what you're doing so you don't look like the crazy person in the office too. Like it's okay to be like, hey, I'm going to be doing squats every hour.
Yeah. You can just say, I recommended it to you.
Well, now, Daniel, I know you recently just worked with Greenville High School's volleyball team. You went in and worked with them on stretching and getting themselves ready. Do you ever, or do you think you would ever want to maybe be available for offices where you could come in for like their wellness program and speak on different things you can do throughout the day to keep the employees safe?
Absolutely, for sure. I'd be willing to do that for any office, and you can kind of go through and like check people's, or I would be able to go through and like we'll look at, say, for example, people's workstations and kind of see what those look like. If there's anything I think they should like clean up there. And then I always like to give out like a little infographic card that I have. It's just kind of goes through like a checklist of like what the best posture possible would be. And then from there, there's like some stretches and things to do as well. And I think the biggest thing would probably be educating them on, again, like Trent said, just continuing to move or just going for a walk like every 2 hours or something like that. Like you said, it can just be around the block, nothing crazy.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. Well, before we let you go, Trent and I like to have a little fun when we do this stuff. So, Trent, I think you have some videos for Daniel to check out.
Yeah. So I hear you are really good at correcting form on deadlifts. So I have 2 clips for you. I want you to critique, these deadlifts, because I think when you are at the gym and you see people working out, it's probably the most misused exercise there is, wouldn't you say?
Definitely the most misused, to where people are ramping up weights way too fast. But the other thing about it, though, it's also a fundamental movement that everyone's going to be doing every single day. So um, people say it's bad for your back, and it's not necessarily bad for your back. It's the form that you see people in the gym when they're trying to max out at 500 pounds, and they should be sitting at, I don't know, 350 or something like that. So it's those excessive loads that make them patients of mine, I guess. So.
All right, here we go. Here's your first clip. Tell us what goes wrong here.
Cut. So when he sets up, he looks great for that split second where his spine's neutral, but then he goes into like a rounded spine, and that's where you see a lot of disc herniations. So if he maintained the curve in his spine the whole way, it wouldn't necessarily be quite as bad. Like you'll see some strong men that are deadlifting, say, for example, 900 pounds or so, and they'll keep like a slight curve, but it's just a matter of maintaining that same curve all the way throughout the lift. So he looks good there and then pops that back. And if you ask me, that's a disc herniation waiting to happen. So
that hurts to look at. All right. Not that I'm one to judge, but all right, here's your second one. What goes wrong here?
Everything. Oh man, that hurts just to look at. I can't even imagine how many injuries.
And that after that is when we go back to this one right here. Just need just about everything cracked.
Cracking everything. No, nothing specific. That's like your YouTube, the viral TikToks or whatever right there. Move everything.
I know not technically a deadlift, but I just had to throw this one on there.
Awful.
I would love to know how he was feeling after that.
Fold it up. All right, well, thank you very much for jumping on, being the first ever guest on Let's Be Real.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, and really appreciate both of you getting on here this morning. And like I said, highly recommended from the Riethman household and BMF Fitness. You just can't go wrong. And one thing I will say that I really like about Daniel, I'm not big on getting cracked. He'll tell you that. He knows. So I like that he also will find ways to see if he can kind of, what I want to say, align you and get you back moving without putting you through all the cracking, which is one of my favorite things. So check it out. Don't be afraid. A really great building there on 3rd Street at the Natural Path. Daniel, you have a Facebook page too, right? That everyone can check you out.
Yep. The link would be just like Dr. Daniel Edwards, or you can look up Dynamic Health and Performance. So
we'll make sure to put that in the comments.
Perfect.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.